Hi, my name is Jared Stier. I'm the swordsmith and artist at Last Days Tribe Swords and Knives. I'm going to be giving a demonstration today showing how to create steel into a blade. First, to use steel to make a blade, you have to create the steel itself. This right here is the way steel looks before it's refined and turned into a bar. To get to this point takes a whole lot of work. First, you have to get iron ore, which can be harvested from any sort of place, usually magnetite, volcanic sand. Various places around the world had different methods of getting that. The Vikings would get peat bog, which is very low grade, so they have to gather a lot of it. But there's various ways to get that. To turn that iron ore into steel is another complicated process of making something called smelter. You'd make a large cylinder or square out of clay, and you would fill that full of charcoal and your iron ore. Once you would ignite that and let that burn for 10 to 12 hours afterwards, if everything went right, you might have a piece of steel about this big from about 60 pounds of ore. So you lose a whole lot in the creation. So anytime you can make iron, it was definitely very precious just because it was so hard to generate. Now once you had this in itself is not very useful. It would have to be refined down. So this would then go to the blacksmith who would refine it. After heating it up and working it down, hammering it, drawing it out, folding it back on itself, drawing it out more, folding it back on itself again, you would get what's recognizable today as bar steel. This is very similar to what you would find if you were to go to any hardware store to get a piece of steel, except what's different about that steel and this is that this has never existed on the earth in this form before. It's been freshly created and therefore it has a little bit different properties. It holds an edge a lot better and it sticks to itself much easier whenever welding, which is very important as far as blade creation because there's not a whole lot of steel here, so you're going to have to constantly keep adding more onto this to be able to stack it. Now, once you do get your steel made and you're ready to use what you have to make a blade, you would draw it out into a rough blade shape like this. This is called a sax. This is a typical Northern European knife used by Anglo-Saxons, Normans, and Vikings from about 500 until 1100 AD. This is straight from the forge. It has all the carbon buildup on it still has a scale. It's very soft because it hasn't been hardened or heat treated. So this is what you would get whenever you first get your finalized forgings done. And then from there, to create a finalized blade, you would do your grinding, your hardening, and polishing, and eventually you would end up with something along these lines. This is ready for a handle, ready for its final polish. It's been heat treated, it's been tempered to where it has a spring and bounce to it, but yet it can still hold an edge. This is what every bladesmith hopes to be able to create at the end of their workmanship.
Jared Stier is also a member of the Society of Creative Anachronisms, but before he was a member, he was a blacksmith, or more specifically, a bladesmith.
A blacksmith and a bladesmith both make items out of iron, but only the bladesmith can make blades and everything the blacksmith can make. Blacksmith is someone who would make horseshoes, decorative ironwork, gates, various things like that, nails, whereas the bladesmith is more a honed art. So to be able to have someone who can take these very delicate pieces of metal, make a blade out of it that was meant to stab through armor, to be constantly hit and thrashed, and we can still dig it up, 15 to 2,000 years later, and it's in one piece. It is an absolutely amazing thing.
In this demonstration, Jared's going to work from a steel bloom down to a steel bar. For the sake of this video, we're going to shorten some of the clips because this is a rather lengthy process.
different besides from one that you would use in your house to cut a steak. A blade that's used actually, a purpose-built to attack, is mainly the sword, which, you know, knives have multiple uses, but the sword is the only instrument that's made to go out and do the simple act of killing another human being. It's not used for hunting, it's mainly used just for battle. So you would have longer knives like this sax here, which is broken back Anglo-Saxon style. The qualities you would want in this, as opposed to this Viking sword here, are totally different. For something like this, which is shorter, much thicker, but still has a great long edge and good for thrusting, you would want much harder, less give. This blade does not bend. The downside of that is, the longer you attack with it, the more likely it is to break. So you'd want both of these. You'd want one for thrusting close and one for long fighting. In a sword, the way you can tell a good sword is the fact that it can bend and go back into shape. It has to be springy. So as you can see, the good sword will be able to move and bend, be able to retain its still shape. Another thing about it is it has to be made at such a level to where once it's created, heat treated and tempered, which is the hardening and then drawing back to a good level of hardness, is that it has to be able to hold an edge. Most blades are either too hard and they'll break, or they're too soft and they go dull. At the event, I'm going to be bringing the bar of steel that you saw me consolidate here, and I'm going to do a blade start to finish that day. So you'll actually be able to see that bar turn into a blade, heat treated, tempered, and finished and handled. And I'm also going to give it away at that event. Something that's very important to me, there is a local food kitchen here and they are desperate for funds. So I'm going to have a drawing. Everybody can put their name in once. If you donate $1, you get your name put into the hat an extra time. So all that money will go straight to them, and then, you know, the winner will get to take the blade home with them.